We have some quick sports updates for you guys today and a special interview. First of all, we're going to start off with Alex going back to Oklahoma State. We have a new co-host on the show. Introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mentzel. I'm currently a junior here at North Dakota State, and it's great to be here, Malik. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm excited to have a good semester talking about sports.
Yep. Alex will always be missed. Be sure to keep supporting her on her YouTube and all the stuff like that. So first, we're going to dive into football. This is the first time since 2017 we will not be starting the season as defending champions. NDSU was fourth in the FCS preseason poll. Sam Houston was obviously number one because they were champions. And then number two was James Madison, and we didn't play them last year. And number three was SDSU, who we also lost to. Yeah, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely strange not seeing NDSU at number one in the preseason polls. But, I mean, like you said, we didn't win the championship last year. It's to be expected that we're probably not going to start out as number one this year. But we do have a lot of returning players. We have 10 players on the preseason All-Missouri Valley Football Conference team. We also have 7 preseason All-Americans on the team as well. And, we have plenty of guys like Christian Watson and Cordell Volson, who were named to the preseason watch for the Reese's Senior Bowl. So we definitely have a lot of returning pieces to this team, and it could very well make a lot of noise, but we also have a lot of new pieces this year as well.
Yep, they kick off the season tomorrow against Albany at 2:30 at the Fargo Dome, which is going to be crazy. This is our first time playing Albany in history, so it's glad to see. How do you think that will go? Because, new team, they're on the other side of the conference,
It should go pretty good, and speaking of history, we have brand new 1965 inspired throwback uniforms that go back to our NDSU's first ever champion team, and as we know, we've had a lot of champions since then, but this goes back to the first one, which the new uniforms, they'll be pretty interesting to see. As for the game itself, it will be very interesting to see. We have a new quarterback, obviously, in the system, so that's going to provide for some new things to watch for, and as well as those returning players, and to see how well they do as compared to last season.
Yep, and the dome is open seating now. It's full capacity, so you don't have to wear a mask or anything like that. Tailgating is also allowed this year. I missed tailgating last year because we didn't have it due to COVID. What are some stats from the guys?
Some of the stats from the guys. James Kaiser last season had 70 total tackles. He'll be a returning senior this year. Cordell Volson on the offensive line was very good last year, and like we said, he's on the senior watch list, so we'll definitely have to keep an eye on how he does there. Christian Watson, the star wide receiver senior this year, had 19 receptions for 442 yards and only 1 touchdown, surprisingly. And quarterback Quincy Patterson, our new quarterback, he had played 2 games with Virginia Tech, the Hokies, had played 1 game against North Carolina and 1 against Notre Dame. He had, in those 2 games, 257 yards and 2 touchdowns in those 2 games.
Yep, and we also have some new players that are like transfer cornerback Gerard Vines from Eastern Michigan. Excited to see what he's going to do. He's an older guy. We'll see if he starts early in play. I know he has to get in the playbook quick as possible because we have younger guys that stepped up to the plate like Courtney Eubanks and Marquise Bridges and stuff like that. And then we also have running back transfer to Merrick Williams from Southern Methodist University. We already have a lot of running backs on the depth chart. We got Dominic Ganella, Jalen Bussey, Kobe Johnson. How do you think he's going to fit into that running scheme?
He should fit very well. I mean, it's going to probably take some time for him to actually get some playing time because we're pretty stacked right now at that position. But I feel like with all those players and all that skill in front of him, he should get a lot of good learning opportunities and eventually be a very good running back for this team.
Yep. Who do you see predicting as the starting running back? Dom Ganella, Jalen Bussey, Kobe Johnson. Who do you think is going to start?
Granted, I mean, really, it could be anybody. Last year, it was kind of a toss-up every week who was going to take a majority of the running back roles. Last year, it was midseason, it was Lukey who actually took a lot of the halfback snaps, but he's listed back at fullback for this season, so it seems like that may be where he'll end up. So it could be either Ganella or Bussey, and each of them has their own set of skills. Like Bussey is very good for speed. Ganella has been proven to be a very good balanced back when it comes to terms with power and speed. So it'll be interesting to see who gets the start.
Yeah, I think Ganella should take it, though. He really proved himself as a freshman, stepping up in those big games when they really needed him and never getting hurt, floating under pressure, fighting through the pain, you know what I mean? Yeah, as you said, each back gives us something different. I know in the beginning of the season, the first game, Seth Wilson started, but then he had a little injury in the first quarter, I think, and then that's when, Dom Ganella showed what he can do. But, but the quarterback position. Last year we had trouble. Like each game, it seemed like with the quarterback position, Quincy Patterson was named QB1 online, so it's not a secret. How do you think he will perform?
And it's a wonder, and this season should be a little bit easier considering with new quarterbacks because we're starting non-conference games, and those always seem to be a little bit easier, I guess, to get into rather than starting right with conference games for quarterbacks. And, I honestly don't know how that is, but it always seems to be that way with, non-conference games. You're not playing the same teams. They don't know as much about you, so you can get into the playbook a little bit easier than when, like last year, where we just played conference games.
Yep. I mean, all the hype around him, he's like 6'6" and weighs 245 pounds. He's basically a Cam Newton. He's a truck that can run. He's fast.
Yes.
He can obviously, break some tackles with his physique. But, do you think the pressure will get to him because all the QBU, hype around him and, having to like push on the name and, make up for last season because we didn't really do that good at the QB position. Do you think he has any pressure on him this season?
I mean, I'm sure he does, as, any quarterback, like at a school like this where football is a high priority at the university. I'm sure there's some pressure, but I guess, for him, probably not because he's started at a Power 5 school at Virginia Tech. So, I mean, I'm sure there will be some pressure, but I'm pretty sure he can handle whatever pressure comes his way for this weekend.
Yep, and overall, it's an overall different team. Like, we have our guys coming back, like Phoenix Sproles was a really key player that we lost at the receiver position. Glad he's coming back. Will you think that will shift some changes and we can win some football games?
Yeah, I would definitely think so. Injuries were definitely a problem last year. COVID was a problem last year. Thankfully now, I think those will be less of problems this year. So we'll definitely be more coordinated. We have more veterans back, so this should be a team that is more balanced than the one in the spring.
Yep, and I also think it's going to be more of a competitive team because you guys, I bet they have guys fighting for spots. They're bringing in so many. Trey Lance's younger brother, receiver.
Bryce.
Bryce, younger receiver. He's tall. He's probably a good receiver. You have guys really fighting for spots. You got Phoenix Sproles, Christian Watson, who did good last year. It was number one. They're really depending on him because they were missing Phoenix Sproles. But you have those two guys already solidified. So you have the other guys fighting for the third spots. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, they have like more than 7 receivers on the roster. So it's pretty competitive, even with the running backs. How do you think that will play out? You think there's going to be a lot of switches during the games?
There definitely could be because, especially at that receiver position, we had a lot of receivers last year who got starting time because of like guys like Sproles and Watson being unavailable. Sometimes like Libby and Henderson, who definitely could play this year. Maybe not as starters because we're getting guys back, but they'll definitely get playing time because they have had playing time before and have proved that they can play starting time.
Yeah. So, and also, like I said, this is our first time since 2017. Not being defending championships. Do you think we could go all the way? I mean, we do have something to prove now.
Yes.
Before we used to have nothing to prove, but now we do. I know everybody's looking at us like, we're kind of a bust or whatever. And, how do you think we're going to handle that throughout the season? Do you think it's going to, take a burden on us, or are we just going to ball out?
I mean, we've been through this situation before, back in after the 2016 season when we had all those championships and it got broken in 2016 by James Madison. We came back and won 3 straight more. Now, granted, this is a new year, a new time. Could we win a championship? It's hard to say right now whether we could or not. But I definitely have my confidence in this team that we could go back because we have the veteranosity, we have the coaches, we have the players. I mean, granted, we definitely could make a run back to Frisco again, I think, this year.
All right, and let's go to our defense. Our defense was pretty solid last year, would you say?
Yes, I would definitely say. However, there were times that, things didn't go so well. There were some bucklings, but that's because of COVID and injuries again, unfortunately.
Yep, so I think we have a lot of younger guys coming in for the secondary position with cornerbacks. But, with the linebackers, we still have our veterans, like you were saying, Jackson Hankey, James Kaiser, Jasir Cox. Yeah, we have some returning guys. So I think our defense still will be solid as it was last year. I'm looking for the safety position, though, because, Dawson Weber did not play due to injuries, and Dom Jones balled out, with 2 interceptions, a bunch of tackles. that's going to be a toss-up between them because usually, they want to give him the spot back because, he did earn that spot before he got hurt. So how do you think that's going to play out through the games? Do you think they're going to alternate, series,
I don't know, maybe they'll alternate series, but it definitely makes it feel a lot better this season for the defense. The fact that we have a lot more players at that position, because I think that was a position of need at the end of the year, because I think Kaiser actually got injured in that playoff game against Sam Houston, I believe. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that kind of hurt us in the long run, but thankfully now that we have more guys at that position this year, it shouldn't be a problem with injuries. So I feel pretty confident in that position this year.
Yeah, and how do you think Coach Ince feels about this season? Because, he's supposed to be the guy that has to get the wins every single season, and he didn't get it for this team. How do you think he feels going into the season? What do you think he's telling his guys going into the season?
I think he's telling them just to stay calm, put last year behind you, because last year was definitely not normal. Playing a football season in the spring, much less. So, I wouldn't say don't count it. Keep it in your memory banks as we didn't win the championship, but don't keep it as, this isn't you. This wasn't a normal season. This is going to be a normal season now. We're going to come back to normal. We're going to be tough again. We're going to recover from that. And, at the end of the year, hopefully we'll get back to Frisco.
Right. And I know, one of the games that we lost last year, they were saying, we thought we were the stuff. We thought we couldn't be beaten. And then when they got beaten, it was a reality check. Even though they lost a couple more games after that, they still, had that back in their minds, we can't be beaten, and we need to do business to get back to Frisco.
Yes.
So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have a special guest on the show. So stay tuned. Don't go away.
Founded in 1985, the Missouri Valley Football Conference has established a tradition of FCS football excellence. Competing at the highest level of NCAA Division I, student athletes at its 10 institutions demonstrate character, passion, and integrity as they grow as a student, an athlete, and a citizen. The Missouri Valley Football Conference, where leaders are shaped and champions are forged.
No kid deserves to go hungry, but try as they might, not every family can afford to put food on the table every day. That's why the Great Plains Food Bank and their partner agencies work every day to bring food to our hungry neighbors. Every dollar donated can provide 4 meals for those in need. Go to greatplainsfoodbank.org and donate today so no kid in North Dakota ever has to go hungry.
Welcome back. We're here with star running back Dom Ganella. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Alrighty, so let's start things off with last season. You led your team in rushing yards with 507, and you averaged 55 yards a game and 2 TDs last season. And you were also second on the team for all-purpose yards. So with last season with COVID, what was it like taking such a big role in the offense early?
I'd say it was exciting. It was really on my toes a lot throughout the year, just trying to learn the offense still. I mean, I had a good gist of it throughout the year, but I'd say every single week, throwing in new plays, throwing in new schemes, just locking in every week and every day, just preparing for the game.
Practice could not have been easy back in the spring with COVID still at its peak, but now, we're back in the fall, restrictions are being lifted. So how has practice been over the summer as compared to the spring?
I'd say it's a little bit more consistent. We know our schedules a lot more now. I know last year sometimes our schedule would change due to how many people we have healthy, how many guys we have going. So I'd say this year we actually have a pretty set schedule, and I know that's how we love to run things around here. keep things traditional and smooth. That way we're ready for the game as best as possible.
All right, but you doing so well just as a freshman and not folding under pressure in big games like UND, what leadership roles have you taken on this year? Because you've gained a lot of experience last season and outperforming a lot of the running backs on the depth chart that might be older. What experience have you gained and leadership roles have you taken on?
I'd say a big thing I'm trying to do right now is balance improving our younger guys that just came in, because I know like I'm a sophomore, but the young guys who just came in, and then also helping everyone we have in our running back room just continue to improve, and as well as like learning and building from the older guys who have been here and who have been to Frisco and have played in those big playoff games, like just learning from them as well.
Before the spring season even began last year, Adam Cofield left in the transfer portal, and Seth Wilson went down with an injury in the first game. So with every running back returning from the spring season and including some of the young freshmen coming in, how do you feel that this backfield can cause some damage this year?
Oh yeah, definitely. I feel like we're really deep, we're strong, we're fast, we have a ton of tools. Like we're definitely going to be deep and explosive this year for sure.
Okay, so it's no secret that you're a two-sport athlete. You're also an outfielder for the Arizona Diamondbacks minor team. So what made you make that big commitment to play Division I football and be a professional baseball player?
Honestly, I think I just wasn't ready to choose, and I feel like it was a best of both worlds decision where I could actually continue to just keep playing and having fun with it. So that was kind of why I chose.
COVID hit everyone really hard last year, and especially in the spring, and it hit Fargo as well, unfortunately, and it caused the Fargo Dome to be at only half capacity last year, or back in the spring. But now the Fargo Dome is back at full capacity again. Do you feel that that's going to help the team a lot this year?
Definitely, definitely. From what I've heard from the older guys and watching it before I got up here, it looks like it's going to be something to influence the game, I'd say, with the noise levels, the intensity, the momentum swings. Like, I feel like it'll be a big difference this year with the full Fargo Dome.
Okay, last season you were missing key players like wide receiver Phoenix Sproles and running back Adam Cofield that transferred, and even had trouble at the quarterback position. What is the difference between this year's team than last season's team?
I'd say we have more, we're more stable. Like, there's not much moving around with the positions as much, Injuries and stuff is not much more of a problem. Obviously, that you can't really control that. But I'd say we have a stable group and a stable depth chart. So that way, if something does happen, we know who's going to be up next. We know if they're prepared or not and how we're going to rock with them throughout the season.
And finally, the team had an unfortunate end to last season, losing to Sam Houston State in the quarterfinals. But, with how everything seems to be getting back to normal this year, do you think this team can return back to Frisco this year?
Definitely. If we put in the work and stay consistent and come out with the way we know how to play, with energy, starting off strong, finishing games, we'll be a force to be reckoned with for sure.
All right, thank you, man, for joining us. Hope you guys have a good opening game tomorrow against Albany at 2:30. Be sure to tune in to those guys at the Fargo Dome and support the rest of the football team. Don't go away.
Technology Learning and Media Center, located in the Quinton Burdick Building, room 150C, provides a variety of services to assist you with all of your technology-related coursework and personal learning goals. The TLMC offers one-on-one tutoring and assistance in topics ranging from basic computer skills to advanced topics such as design, Adobe products, and multimedia software. A resource library that includes books on the latest software releases, online resources including a lynda.com kiosk that provide free access to high-quality video tutorials on hundreds of topics. Free workshops on a variety of topics taught each semester by our student staff. Software and hardware for audio and video capture, conversion, and editing, plus personal assistance on your multimedia projects. Multiple scanners are available at the TLMC, including one large format scanner and a slide and film scanner. The Wacom tablet provides ultimate control in your favorite graphics and illustration software and can help you to create stunning digital artwork. Large format poster printing is also done at the TLMC. Our walk-in media resources include the Whisper Room sound booth for recording professional quality voiceovers and audio. The TLMC Media Studio is available by reservation and provides equipment and space for video recording, audio recording, studio photography, screen capture, and a green screen for special effects. If you have any questions on these services, be sure to visit the TLMC website, and while you're there you can check out a variety of learning and media resources, or just stop by the next time you're in the Quentin Burdick building and check out what we have to offer.
It was good getting up with Dom Ganella. Now we're going to dive into soccer and volleyball. So the NDSU women's soccer team was picked 5th overall in the preseason coaches poll. And the teams who were ahead of us was Denver, who won the title last season, SDSU, Omaha, and USD. What's some stuff?
Well, so last season we were 7-8-1, and actually won the first 5 out of 6 to start the year, but then kind of fell apart at the end of the season, not getting our next win until late in the year. Ellie Schneider is the first Bison since 2011 to be selected to the team last month. Schneider was named to the Summit League Academic All-League team. And Josh Purdom has been elevated to associate head coach after 2 seasons as the top assistant for the team.
Yep, yeah, Ellie Schneider was named the Academic All-District First Team. That award recognizes the top students that combine their performances in the field and in the classroom. So it was good to have that on our team. Yeah. A key player that returned to our squad was forward Olivia Lavick, who was a freshman last year and scored the most goals on the team, which was 6. And she also had the most shots on goal. So it's good to have her back. What's something to say?
We played last night's game against Wyoming, ended up tying them 1-1. Olivia Watson scored our only goal about 55 minutes into the game, and then Wyoming ended up scoring right after that. It ended up going into double overtime. NDSU had a shot with about 2 minutes to go in the first overtime to win the game on a corner kick that bounced off the head of one of the players and barely sailed over the top of the goalpost, which unfortunately did not go in, and the game ended up going into a tie as nobody else really could get a shot on the goal for the remainder of the game.
Yeah, it was crazy. You know, we were there. It was raining. It looked like it was almost a storm. They were slipping and sliding. They couldn't even get like a full kickoff because when they were trying to kick, they would slide. It was a crazy game. But yeah, they're currently 0-4. None of the teams that we played have been conference teams, so we can't really, take that loss and, feel bad about it. But 2 other teams have been exhibition games also against University of Minnesota and Nebraska, which really didn't go well, but they're good teams to get better off of, and learn from. Yesterday with Wyoming, they tied 1-1. That was unfortunate. Like you said, we should have won that game. We should have got 2 goals.
There was one goal where it went past the goalie and was rolling towards the goal, but because of those rainy conditions, it slowed the ball down tremendously, and that allowed one of the Wyoming players to come back and get to it. And there was that other one that there was no goalie in front of the goal for a little while, and the ball was just sitting there. But unfortunately, by the time an NDSU player got to it, the goalie was able to somehow get back to it and knocked it out of the play.
Right, it was so unfortunate. So their next game is September 9th against Cretan at 7 p.m., so make sure you guys support that. Now we're going to dive into volleyball. So coming into the season, the volleyball was 5th in the Summer League preseason poll. Now, they kind of deserve that because last season they really didn't do all that well. But last weekend they played Northern Iowa, Green Bay, and Ball State at the Green Bay Invite. So we lost to Northern Iowa 1-3. We won against Green Bay 3-2 and got swept by Ball State 3-0. What are some of the stats?
Some of the stats for the game against Northern Iowa in terms of kills, Syra Tanchin had and Allie Hins actually tied for the most amount of kills with 10 each, and then Michelle Glover had 9. And then in the game against Green Bay, Syra Tanchin had a huge game against Green Bay, had 21 kills. Allie Hins had 15, and then Michelle Glover had 9 again in that one. And in the game against Ball State, not a lot of stats, unfortunately, in that one, as we did get swept in that series. Syra Tanchin had 7 kills, along with Allie Hinch. She also had 7. And then Kristen Tidd had the third most with 4.
Yep, and like you said, some good players. Allie Hinsey, she is a returning player, freshman from last year, who had the most kills last season, and Sarah Tinchin, who's also a returning player, older player, who had the second most kills on the team last season. So, and then speaking of last season they were 8-7. They were 8-8 in the conference, which is not all that good. You know, hopefully they can get a better record this year, you know, to do better. We also thought that, you know, since they're freshmen last year, gain that experience, so next year they can, you know, hype the team up, get the younger guys involved, you know, show them experience so we can win some more games.
Yeah, I mean, we're about mid-pack right now, but that doesn't mean that we can't get higher right now. We have these players who are putting up impressive stats each and every week, like Tanchin and Hinsey. But, yeah, I mean, it definitely takes them getting the younger players, more reps, more hype on the team, and eventually, hopefully that, you know, that turns out onto the court to get more wins eventually.
Yep, so they just started a game an hour and 30 minutes ago against Charlotte, so for the Windy City Classic. And they play another game also today at 7 against Chicago State, and tomorrow at 11 a.m. against Niagara. So be sure to tune into those games. So how do you think those games will go for them?
Right now, I mean, it seems like every single set that they play, they keep it close for most sets, even the ones that they lose. So we'll have to see if that's what they do again today. But these games are very, very good for them in coming into terms of conference, because non-conference games are always helpful, no matter what sport you play, to set your team up, to know where you guys are, where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, and what you need to work on for each and every week.
Yeah, and also these teams are not teams we usually play, so we don't know really what to expect or what can be the outcome for the game. So hopefully all we can do is hope for the best, you know, be disciplined, show what they do in practice, and win the games. Yeah, so how do you think their predicted season is going to go? You think they're going to have a winning season this year instead of tying the season?
As of right now, I'm not too sure as to whether they're going to be better or worse than last year. It seems like at the track that they're going, it seems they're going to be right about where they were last year, unfortunately. But this is just non-conference, and the conference games are really the ones that matter in the long run. So it really depends on how they play in those conference games. Can they learn from these non-conference losses that they've had early, and can they, you know, strengthen themselves to be better once the season comes around, you know, once the conference season comes around? That's really is where the questions are going to lie, is when they play the conference games.
Yep, hopefully they do better this season. We'll wish them on the game coming up this weekend. Thank you for tuning in to another season of Bison Overtime. Be sure to watch next Friday at 11:30 a.m. for another episode. Go Bison.